volgende presentatie is Ruud. Ja, Ruud uit Nijmegen. I was just bragging about Ruud. I think you're doing the only real PIFS study in our consortium, right? Because you're really comparing the various post-acute infectious syndromes next to NMCB. Post-COVID, that's quite popular, but you at least intend to do Q fever, Lyme, post-COVID, and now also you're going to include people with post-sepsis.
Yeah, that's in a project.
Yeah.
For the post-COVID.
Yeah. And NMCB, of course.
Yes. Yeah. Hi. Just briefly introduced. I do together with Marijn and Benno sitting there, but also other people from the Radboud UMC. We do a project that focuses on ME/CFS and the comparison with various PIFS. So not just focusing on post-COVID, but also focusing on post-treatment Lyme disease syndrome and Q fever fatigue syndrome. And quickly walk you through our main objectives. So we basically have 4 objectives. Objectives 1 and 2 are focused on Lyme disease. I'll start with those ones. So what we first want to do in objective 1 is to assess the prevalence of ME/CFS case criteria in a post-Lyme cohort. For that, we work together with Kees van Wijgaard, who's also here today, who manages a really large Lyme cohort. It's called the Lyme Prospect Study. That's over 1,000 patients with acute Lyme infection included. And basically what was done, a questionnaire was sent to these patients that assesses ME/CFS case criteria. So it's the default symptom questionnaire. So it assesses the Fukuda criteria, but also the IOM and the CCC criteria. And that will give us some insight into how prevalent is ME/CFS in that cohort, which is interesting information. The second objective is in that same cohort, plasma was collected at the time of infection, so when the people had acute Lyme disease, and then 6 weeks after that, so when they are recovering from their acute infection. And this is interesting when you want to translate to ME/CFS, because often when we do ME/CFS research, the inciting trigger that set the disease off basically is in the past already. So we do research for people who are sick for often quite a few years already. But in this cohort, we have the unique opportunity to investigate people at the time of infection, so at the time of their trigger, and a recovery period thereafter. And then we can select patients who remain having symptoms in the long run, and then look back at how the inflammation and other proteins sort of act at the time of infection and recovery. So those are objectives 1 and 2. The main thing of this project is objective 3 and 4, is where we make a comparison. So we do a comparison of 50 ME/CFS patients with 50 post-COVID patients, 50 Q fever fatigue syndrome patients, and 15 post-Lyme disease syndrome patients. And we compare those with healthy controls. And what we're going to look at is various omics. So we do a massive protein analysis. We look at activation profiles of immune cells. We look at epigenetic changes in the surrounding the DNA. And we do look at large metabolomics. So let me walk you through the progress here. So for the prevalence assessment of ME/CFS cases in the post-Lyme cohort, DSQ2 questionnaires have been sent out to all the people, and we hope to analyze this in this year. For the comparison, the investigation of the inflammatory proteins and the metabolomics in the Lyme cohort at the time of infection and 6 weeks thereafter, we found some interesting results. We found basically that when you compare those people who continue to develop post-treatment Lyme disease syndrome in the long run to those who recover normally from their infection, we find that those who develop the disease in the long run, they have a sort of a decreased protein expression, not so much at the time of infection, but in the convalescent period right thereafter. And there is a decrease in proteins that are associated with neuroprotection, which is quite interesting, but also a decrease in certain cytokines that are important in recruitment of certain cell types that have been associated with ME/CFS in literature, like the NK cells and the T helper 17 cells. So you can see that here for the inflammation. So I don't know if you can see this. So this is at the time of infection. You compare the people who recover normally with those who develop the symptoms. And here 6 weeks after infection, you can see here there's a decreased expression of several proteins, especially 6 weeks after infection, in those who develop the symptoms. And it's the same when you look at a sort of a neuroinflammation panel, and you see sort of the same pattern. So the people who develop PTLDS, and maybe also the same holds for ME/CFS patients, there's a decreased protein expression. What we're doing now is we're validating those data. So we're going to do confirmatory ELISAs, and we're going to look at flow cytometry, for example. So we're going to investigate cell types like the NK cells and the TL17 cells and see how their activation profiles basically hold up and how their recruitment has gone. So for objectives 3 and 4, the big comparison basically between all the different disease states, the inclusion of the ME/CFS and the post-COVID and the controls is completed. And like was discussed in the board meeting this morning, there's a bit of a lag in the recruitment of the Lyme patients and the Q fatigue syndrome patients, but that seems to really pick up now, and we're going to start including those patients in Nijmegen. And we plan to analyze this end 2026, beginning 2027. So that's basically a summary of the project and how it's going so far. So if there's any questions, then please feel free to ask. No questions? All right. Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Is this a pilot study? Because 15 seems like a low number.
Yeah, it depends on what you're looking at. When you include 50 patients, but we're going to do such fast protein analysis, such fast metabolome analysis that 15 is ample to make an adequate comparison, basically. Yeah.
Great. There's also a question about if you sign up for NMCB, are you automatically kind of in a pool for all these different research projects, or are the sign-ups separate? And the answer is that it's one big pool.
Yeah. So you sign up for the biobank, basically, right? And the cohort. Yeah. And then we do research on that cohort. Yeah.